Hello, my name is Darryl Robert Schoon, and on this program of Dollars and Cents, I'm going to talk about a subject, I'm not quite sure how we're going to describe it, but I want to tell you how it arose. I recently got an email, and I want to read it to you, and I want to tell you what happened as a result of this email and the dialogue and the thoughts that arose from it. It was sent to me. It came in on May 29th, 9:37 p.m. And the subject line said, "A virtual student of yours," from Patrick Gunville to info@drschoon.com. Darryl, I hope this email finds you well. First, let me introduce myself. My name is Patrick Gunville, and I am a 24-year-old an authentic next generation being, a disciple of truth, and a bringer of light to those who have long since lost their wick. I am living proof of the lie being told to my generation, that the ridiculous price of a shitty education cannot possibly be a bad investment. I perhaps bought into the lie that all you needed was to give up your passion, your creativity, and everything else that makes you special, get into huge debt, learn a bunch of nonsense from a bunch of suck-up ass kissers who probably know less about the meaning of life than a toddler. I have been studying economics, history, truth, philosophy, and spirituality on my own for as long as I can remember. Perhaps I am an indigo child. I have never learned anything from a conventional institution that has ever provided me with any real value or inspiration. Despite this living hell the world has degenerated into, I refuse to give up. I have taken my share of shitty service sector jobs, washing dishes, cooking overpriced, genetically modified foods, washing cars, repairing roofs, and not a single job, even as a roofer, did I earn a wage I could live comfortably on. I was promised a future that if I followed a certain path, but I was flat out lied to, and all my friends and family as well. I live in Canada, and our legendary bubble hasn't even popped yet. Naturally, I found myself attracted to business and became a real estate agent to learn how to be a sales professional, the only real skill or training with any long-term value these days. I have been studying everything: gold, silver, the economy, the occult, history, religion. It is all inherently connected. Luckily, I do not waste the power of the internet looking up crap and posting crap about my life on Facebook. The internet, in my mind, is really my generation's last chance and best chance of becoming informed, waking up and learning the truth about the world we live in. Your YouTube videos, Dollars and Cents, have been incredibly valuable to me. It seems there is an endless supply of disinformation out there, and anything repeated enough times becomes truth. So I am constantly seeking out educational material to keep my mind sane and fit. Didn't you know? My generation has ADHD. We can't hold on to information for longer than pretty much 5 minutes. So it is a constant and daily battle, keeping my mind pure and free from disease and degeneration. My question to you is, there are basically two parallel truths out there. The first is that people are just inherently greedy. And by giving people too much power, especially as children, never having to earn their fortune from scratch, scrubbing scum off scum on a scummy floor, never experiencing the life of serfdom, this breeds a class of elite with no empathy, who do not really even understand the evil of their policy and decisions. The second truth is more conspiracy-oriented. But the logic and evidence can't really be ignored, especially with CIA mind control, experimentation, Hollywood Illuminati mind control, Satanism, all that shit. You can dismiss it if you choose to be ignorant and refuse to open your mind and listen to the actual argument and evidence. But it becomes pretty evident, especially considering the best way to rule a planet is without anybody knowing it. It really is the ultimate form of control. Let people think they are free and they won't revolt. So I am led to stuff that you may have even mentioned. Zionism, the Rothschilds, and even deeper, Satanism, occultism, psychopaths, even multidimensional beings who feed off fear and negative energy. Magic, by Aleister Crowley's definition, is simply using your mind to make a change in the physical world. So getting up in the morning and making coffee is technically a form of magic by that definition. I have even heard the US dollar bill is some form of magic. Does it not force change in the physical realm and get people to do things they wouldn't normally do? Is there not some kind of ritual they do give to that magical paper power? A ritual can simply be a form of deception. It can be pretty much of anything. The definition is as loose as magic. Patrick Gunville. Well, that's not the usual email I read. And so it came in at 9:37. Martha told me that something to come in for me. And so I sat down, and this is what I wrote, Patrick. Dear Patrick, here is an alternative explanation for what you, quote unquote, see. The Earth is similar to a cosmic outpatient clinic. And while it is not, it does resemble one in an important way. Most everyone here on Earth suffers from EDD, Ego Dissociative Disorder. This is a condition where the ego believes itself separate from the self, from its source, which is an impossibility. Nonetheless, the mind is so powerful it can create this illusion and believe it real. When the self is in this dissociative state, other beings can take advantage of it easily, and in fact do. This leads to what is called evil. However, the self eventually wakes up from this dissociative state, dissociative illusion, because it is a state of suffering. And there's only so much suffering the self can take. It eventually wakes up. However, this can take many incarnations. And the self begins the journey back, quote unquote, to the self which it has never left. The fact that you have seen the falsity of the illusion is a sign that you will find the truth, as the former precedes the latter. Don't despair. You are doing remarkably well. This is not to say the path is easy. It isn't. It is, however, meaningful beyond our present capacity to understand. Be tolerant of others. They too are in various dissociative states, whether they know it or not. As you have already learned, the mind is very powerful, and it must be controlled. It is not neutral, and in fact, it is the source of EDD. Still the mind, and know that you are the I am, the true self that you have always been and always will be. That truth will be revealed to you in due time. Of course, the due time is the kicker. But I have all the confidence that you will find it, because that is why you emailed me in the first place. We are on the verge of extraordinary change. That is why you are on this planet at this time. Someday it will make sense. It is so much better than we fear it to be. But each must find that truth for themselves. In the meantime, keep on keeping on. Good luck, Darryl. It just occurred to me, I should read a poem that I wrote when I was in prison, if I can find it here, because it talks about finding that truth, finding your way in this world of ours, and that it isn't easy. And what made me remember that was the idea that you really can't tell another person how to get there, how to find out the truth, because we all must find it for themselves. So I am going to look and try and find that poem that I wrote here. This is what happens when you don't have an index in your books. This is my own karma. Where is this? Just your simple truth. I hope I can find it. You know, when you're looking for something, you rarely do find it, as you're seeing here. But it's worth looking out. It's called, where is it? This is dead time for you. Here it is. I wrote it when I was in Terminal Island Federal Prison, probably in 1991. It's called, I have seen the dying live. I have seen the dying live. I have seen the living die. I have heard your unasked questions as to what and where and why. But I cannot tell you that which is not mine to say, for each and every one of you must find yourselves this way. The mystery that you live is there for you to see. Through subterfuge and pretense, you struggle to be free. From the chains of your own making, from the prisons of your thoughts, that you find yourself now trapped by, you yourself have caught. I know it seems that love is but a lie, that love is but a dream, that only lives to die. But I know it is not so. I know that love is real, but I cannot show it to you. You yourself must heal. I have seen the dying live. I have seen the living die. I have heard your unasked questions as to what and where and why. But I cannot tell you that which is not mine to say, for each and every one of you must find yourselves this way. When Patrick wrote me his email, he put in front of me what he called two parallel truths. One, that people are just selfish and lacking sufficient experience, they lack empathy, and do evil when they don't know they're doing evil. And then he put another parallel truth out there, that it may not be just selfishness and ignorance, it may be malevolent evil. That there may be dark forces coordinating and running this thing here on this planet, and that's why we have so much death, destruction. And my joke about EDD was that in the rest of the universe, everybody's happy. They're like angels. They float around. There's enough for everything, except here. This is an outpatient clinic. That was my joke. Well, when Patrick put out those two parallel truths, I want to say something about truth. And I want to show you a metaphor about truth. I have a friend of mine, this is Professor Joel Friedman. He was brilliant. He was brilliant in mathematics and philosophy. And his work is in Platonic ideation, modalities. And in the 1970s, Joel told me he was going to go down to Stanford to hear a talk by Dr. Dudley White, who was President Eisenhower's heart doctor. And he was going to speak at the conference of the AMA, the American Medical Association. Well, Joel comes back, and he told me a story that was absolutely amazing. Here were all these doctors, all right? I mean, physicians. And they're waiting there, and Dr. Dudley White was famous. I mean, he was, after all, Eisenhower's heart doctor. And he's giving a talk. He had just returned from China. And he's got one of these little, probably Bell and Howell or Kodak, film things going and projecting this. It was a homemade film that he took when he was in China. And the picture is of a patient lying on a table, and he's Chinese, and he's surrounded by Chinese doctors, and they're operating on his brain, okay? But before they start operating, these doctors start putting needles in the patient's acupressure points, all right? Needle here, needle there. They're turning the needles like this, turning their needles, all right? And after they've done what they set out to do, they start cutting into his brain, into his head. All right? Saw, chisel, clamp, pliers, all right? Whatever it was. And the patient is talking. He's talking. They're asking him questions. Of course, it's in Chinese. Maybe he's not saying, "God damn, this hurts like hell. Why do you stop doing it? I thought it wasn't supposed to hurt." But if you couldn't understand Chinese, it looked like he was just talking, And they sewed him up, and that was it. Joel said that auditorium was shocked, filled with physicians who go to school learning everything about the human body, what it can do and what it can't do, and they saw something in front of them that either Dudley White had lied and put up this incredible fraud, or was just what they had seen. Well, this is truth. The truth that the doctors, that the AMA physicians had learned, it was true. We have physical bodies. They move like this. There are nerve pathways. We have organs. They have dissected everything. They knew pH. They knew all mitochondria. They knew the alveoli, all that kind of stuff. All right? It wasn't that it wasn't true. It was true. Well, evidently, the doctors in China, they knew something else. They had learned about meridians and points and energy flows, what they call qi and stuff like that. And if you manipulated these points, you would deaden the sensory system to feel pain. What they knew was true too. What came together on that remarkable afternoon was the confluence of two different truths. One truth doesn't make another truth not real. But that's what our minds want to say. We want to say, my truth is real, your truth is not. Or this is real and that is not. I want to tell you something. It's a lot more complicated than that. And that is why I wrote back what I wrote to Patrick. I didn't say option number one, who's behind door, the stupid selfish little pricks that sit there and screw everybody over because they never had to work for a living isn't true. I mean, I am one of the most cynical people about human nature on this planet. I didn't say his conspiratorial theory about life, about these people ruling things, wasn't true. I mean, you conspiracy buffs who pride yourselves in knowing about the Bilderbergers, do you know about the 1001 Club? Do you know about the Rothschilds Bank in Geneva? No. I know about those things. Some is true, some not. How you weave it together is up to you. I didn't say it wasn't true. I gave a third truth. A truth that said, dear Patrick, I know you have these questions. This place can be likened unto an insane asylum where everybody has a psychological disorder called EDD. And this explains it. This explains why people are so selfish and so terrible to themselves and each other. This explains why evil people come and take advantage of these dissociative other selves when they have a leg up on them. It explains it. But it also explains that there's a way out of this damn thing. It's like a Skinner box where you're forced to learn the truth. That you bang around in this until it feels so horrible that your separate ego goes, oh God, there's got to be another way. Oh God, isn't there something? And that God who you thought hated you or told you to do this or told you that, thought you couldn't ever get this or couldn't, answered you and laid no restrictions on you at all. All those things about what people told you God wanted you to do, what your source wanted you to do, what this wanted to do, what you had to do, no sex, nothing. Nothing that felt good. You had to punish yourself because somehow you did something bad a long time ago. Was full of shit. But they don't tell you that in the insane asylum. They give you drugs so you can deal with all this bad stuff and make it through the day and work all your jobs, because that's the purpose in an insane asylum. We are here to learn who we are. And that's why I wrote that to Patrick. Well, I want to read you what Patrick wrote me back. It was quite stunning. Quite stunning. Patrick writes back, "Thanks for getting back to me. It is true. I have been trying to change my perception of other people into alternative perceptions of myself. Being tolerant of others, as you say, is really being tolerant of yourself. I have spent a good portion of my life blissfully, perhaps miserably ignorant. I find when speaking to other people about anything, from spiritual thoughts to economics, world events, even daily business talk, it is best to think the other person as being another you. You don't want to get frustrated with them, yourself, because only when you give that unconditional love you give yourself, or you should be giving, can you live harmoniously with others. We are everything experiencing ourselves from a chosen vantage point. So there is no use in trying to be better or ahead of others. Because when you realize other people are really just as much a part of you as you are, you realize you're actually worse off separating yourself from others. Hopefully, that makes some kind of sense. I think the media and everything makes it look so exciting to live in different eras. Caveman times, medieval times, futuristic Spain travel. It makes you, well, it does for me, it used to, kind of depressed that we're living in this kind of stagnant time. I mean, definitely the internet and technology have completely changed things, but there is still a sense of imprisonment, locked away in cubicles, small apartments. But when you take into account the invisible truth that we are in an era of incredible transformation, well, when I learned that, it gave me hope, meaning, and purpose. It becomes perhaps the most exciting time ever to be alive. I don't think at any point in history there's been as much change as is and will occur from 1990 to 2040, approximately speaking. So, it makes perfect sense why my higher self would choose to incarnate here and now. You're right, it is not easy. It is perhaps the most physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually draining time. But when you put it in a certain context, it becomes the best thing ever. An opportunity to evolve. You are busy. I don't expect another reply back. I have just read it is good to try and connect with people you look up to. I have sent messages to lots of business people, writers, etc. But only you so far wrote back. And with insight to boot. So thank you. I will try to keep everything in mind. In the past couple of months or so, I have made a point to try and eat organic food, meditate daily, mostly while listening to binaural beats and going, Om, trying to instill those vibrations within me, open up my chakras. So far, it pretty much works. I don't know if it's a sugar pill effect or whatever, but it doesn't really matter if you're feeling healthier and more vibrant, with energy and motivation bursting from your core. I guess I should learn to stop guessing and start knowing. Thanks and take care, Patrick. Well, I'm glad that he wrote me. I'm glad that I had the opportunity to write him back. And I'm glad he replied to what I had written. And I'm glad that I had the opportunity to read it today on this program. Namaste.